Good morning, my friends. How are you? I hope the lighting is good and I can try and improve the lighting as well. So let me do that. Let me step away for a second and improve the lighting, okay? So just stay there. Hi. So I hope this lighting is better, right? Okay, today I'm going to discuss something very important with you, and it's the connection between yoga, Pratyahara, awareness, interoception, emotional regulation, and freedom from the conditioned mind, or liberation from the conditioned mind, which is also frequently referred to as freedom from karma, to go beyond all karma and to be free of it. I'm still adjusting the light so you can see me clearly and hear me clearly, so please don't mind me. I think we're there. Okay, so I see that our usual colleagues, friends, and associates are joining us from all over the world, and we are now up to 500 people here. And so as soon as we get to 1,000, I will continue this conversation. How many of you have heard this expression, interoception? Interoception. Just let me know whether you are familiar with this expression or is it new to you, and if you know what the connection is between interoceptive awareness and emotional well-being, and also ultimately freedom from the conditioned mind. So here we are now, and thank you. We're almost up to 800 people. As soon as we get to 1,000, we shall begin this conversation. Okay, so let's talk about what the word interoceptive awareness means. So I'm sure you're familiar with the term perception. Perception pertains to the five senses. As you look out into the world, you're having visual perception. As you listen to sounds, you're having auditory perception. Same thing, tactile perception when you touch something, and then olfactory perception when you smell something, and gustatory perception when you taste something. So we call this perceptual activity, usually we call this body and the world. We call this perceptual activity the changing experience of the body and also the changing experience of the world, because no two perceptual snapshots are identical. That's perception. Then there's something called proprioception, and proprioception is your sense of location in space and time. It's a sense of location in space and time. When sometimes there's damage to the inner ear, people lose proprioceptive abilities to some extent, and then they get dizzy and they have imbalance and they have what is called ataxia, and they have imbalance in walking and locating themselves in space. So we have a system, part of our nervous system, that is called the proprioceptive system. But today I'm going to talk about what is interoception. So let me give you a few examples. When you feel hungry, you have a sensation somewhere in your body that tells you, I am hungry. and that is a signal for you to eat. And similarly, when you have actually eaten to the right amount, your stomach feels relatively full. Not totally full, that would be eating too much, but you stop when it feels relatively full, and that's a signal to stay in balance as well. Similarly, when you're thirsty, you have a glass of water. When you're tired, you rest, meditate, or go to sleep. When you are feeling the urge to defecate or urinate, that's also a sensory feeling inside the body. So here is basically what interoception means. It means sensing yourself inwardly by shutting off the external world, the so-called external world, because it's not really external, it's a perceptual activity within you. But when you shut off that and you focus inwardly on sensations in the body, you're beginning to actually practice interoception. So here's the clue. Every experience leaves some kind of trace or mark in the physical body, not only the brain, but everywhere in our musculoskeletal system, in our organs in the body, in the brain, and so on. When you're sensing experiences internally, then you're practicing interoception. Pratyahara is a Sanskrit word which means withdrawal of the senses, but it literally means withdrawal of the perceptual activities. So taking your attention away from visual experience by shutting off your eyes, taking your focus from auditory experience by just feeling your body, etc., etc. So once we shut off the five senses, then we experience what is called inner awareness or sensations in our body. And these sensations in our body are actually the imprint of every experience, perceptual activity, every thought, every emotion, every feeling. Because as I've said many times before, sensations, perceptions, images, feelings, which are emotions, and thoughts are all entangled at the most fundamental level of being or awareness. So interoception actually allows us to regulate both our physical body and our emotional body. With the examples I've given you, toilet training would not be possible in a baby without the experience of interoception, and on and on. So once we have an experience, then we give a word for it, hunger, fatigue, sadness, joy, anger, hostility, guilt, depression, humiliation, equanimity, empathy, affection, attention, tenderness, love, equanimity, joy, insight, intuition, vision, higher consciousness, creativity, vision, and the desire for liberation. All these are experiences that we have in mental space. But these experiences leave an imprint in the body. So what we call emotions and feelings are literally thoughts that are linked to sensations in the body. And so every thought, every emotion, every nuance of thought and emotion has a nuance of sensation in the body. And by learning to be aware of these sensations and decipher their meaning, we have insight into what we call reality. we have insight into what we call reality. Because, the Western conception of reality is, of course, it's physical and material, and we've discussed that. That's called naive realism. But fundamental reality is the ground of existence from where the whole universe is born. So think of right now as an exercise, think of any word that describes an experience. Think of someone you love and you'll feel some kind of warmth over here in the body. Okay, now think of something which is very stressful, last experience that you had, stressful, and suddenly you'll feel some tightness in the stomach or maybe in the heart. So interoception is happening right now, which means every emotion is leaving an imprint in the body, somewhere in the body, in the muscles, in the viscera, in the gut, in even the visceral organs of the body. And if you were to be aware of these sensations, and if you could decipher these sensations, then you could choose to put attention on certain sensations and anchor them also with what is called neuroassociative conditioning, and you would be able to very quickly actually understand that you have access to every experience that is happening in your consciousness just by being sensitive to sensations in your body. So when we say emotions, every emotion, whatever, I've mentioned happy emotions, sad emotions, but all these emotions, anxiety or sadness or anger or joy, they have a sensation as a signal in the body. So interoception is therefore very useful to expand our self-awareness, our intuition, how to shift our perspective, how to have context, meaning, relationship, understand the story that we are telling ourselves, and also give us a deeper understanding of the creative process and problem solving. But interoception also allows us to experience what's happening in our physical heart, which is connected to our emotional and spiritual heart. Interoception allows us to know whether our body is tense or relaxed, whether we are hungry or full, nauseous or energetic. Interoception allows us to know if our body temperature is okay. Interoception also gives us signals like tickling and cramps and anything that we call bathroom needs. Interoception gives us information about our joints and our muscles and so on. And this interoceptive system is actually a sensory system that comes from free nerve endings that are in every cell of our body. And these free nerve endings in every cell in our body are sending signals to our brain, particularly a part of the brain called the insula, and through Pratyahara, through breath awareness, through heart awareness, through body awareness, through visceral awareness, we have access to every single cell in our body, and also we have access to every organ in our body. And then we have the ability to regulate both the emotional activity happening in our mind and the biological activity happening in our body. And this is what yoga teaches. Pranayama teaches that. Pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, teaches that. Yoga Nidra teaches that. Body awareness teaches that. So if you put your attention for now, for example, I tell you, put your attention on your left foot and the toes, then a part of your brain on the right side will get activated, and so will your insula, and it'll give you information on what is the state of well-being in your toes. Or you put your attention on your joints, knees, and immediately you get information about the well-being of your joints. So as we do a body scan mentally, that's also Pratyahara, and we scan every part of our body, each sensory corresponding neural network gets activated in the brain. Just by putting awareness in the body and moving it from one location to another, including the physical organs of your body, you can actually get to know your body very well. You can get to know what's happening in your heart, in your lungs, in your visceral organs, in your joints, in your muscles, and everywhere. And you can also see how that's connected to what you're feeling emotionally. So that is the beginning of self-awareness through body awareness, through emotional awareness, but most importantly, through what we call visceral awareness. Now, the yoga asanas that we do, they're also meant to promote this awareness. The word yoga, of course, means union with the self of the individual, which is the self of the universe. But yoga also uses techniques like yoga asana. The word asana means seat of awareness. So as you do a set of yoga postures, lying postures, sitting postures, standing postures, twisting postures, back and forward bend, and twisting, you actually activate every single part of your body, both the musculoskeletal system and the visceral system, and you gain knowledge, especially if you're doing yoga with awareness, with body awareness, with breath awareness. And then what you can do is also anchor these experiences with mudras, which are hand gestures, or with smells. Aromatherapy, you can anchor the experience with that, or with any sensory experience, taste or color or shape or form. And this neuro-associative conditioning, combined with, in the yoga teachings, the bandhas and the kriyas and the pranayam and the withdrawal and even the postures, like what do you call child pose, or happy baby, or cat cow, or shavasana. These induce different states of being as mind body states, and they have an imprint in visceral and body awareness. So by just practicing Pratyahara, Yogasana, Pranayam, Interoception, we are beginning to actually access the field of awareness as it modifies itself into experience. The experience is visceral sensations, images, thoughts, and everything that we call experience. Everything that we call experience. Now here's the key. As we practice these techniques of interoception, and one can learn to practice interoception of the heart, of the lungs, of the stomach, of the gut, of the visceral organs. Then by just observing them, you can choose to shift your awareness to different sensations associated with different emotions and different chakras and different locations in the body, and then combining that with breathing techniques, different types of pranayam, mudras, bandhas, and kriyas, and neuro-associative conditioning through even mantras or sounds or colors or chanting. All of that also activates different parts of the vagus nerve, and I've spoken before of what is called the polyvagal theory, which says that chanting, deep breathing, yogasana, pranayam, and body gestures, eye movements, and tone of voice can all be used selectively to trigger the healing response through activation of the vagus nerve and activation of the autonomic nervous system. Now, everyone has heard stories about yogis who can change their heart rate or lower their blood pressure or decrease their body temperature or increase their body temperature or experience formlessness. These yogic techniques have been known for thousands of years, but they are simply mastery of awareness as it switches from one sensory experience to another and watches that sensation or observes that sensation and or feels that sensation with no judgment, just the awareness of the sensation, which of course is also called vipassana, the ultimate technique which has been modified these days as mindfulness, which is not really a good word because it's the awareness of the mind is not the mind, right? The awareness of a thought is not a thought. So as we begin to practice Pratyahara and Interoception, the realization comes that the entire experience of what we call everyday reality is ultimately the awareness of a sensation and its different modulations and its different refinements. Also, the realization comes that the awareness of an experience is not the experience. The awareness of the thought is not the thought. The awareness of the emotion is not the emotion. The awareness of the sensation is not the sensation. The awareness of the image is not the image, so that awareness by itself is intrinsically free of its modifications and its modulations and its excitations and its vibrations. Once you understand that awareness is intrinsically free of its modifications and that awareness itself is ultimate freedom and is free to choose its experiences through pratyahara, through yogasana, through pranayama, and through interoception, then that's the beginning of being able to regulate your emotions and in the direction of love, compassion, joy, equanimity. But it's also the beginning of regulating your biological correlations that correspond to those emotions. And ultimately that shifts our point of view of the world and our perspective of the world, so we see it more holistically. We don't see it in terms of linear cause and effect, because every sensation you experience is actually a conspiracy of the total universe. You are a conspiracy as body, mind, and world experience. You are a conspiracy of the total universe in your unique soul signature. So what happens through interoception, perception, pratyahara, pranayama, bandhas, kriyas, and everything I've been talking about is you go to fundamental ground of existence. Arlie says quantum field, no, awareness field, even prior to quantum field. Okay, quantum is just a model for explaining microscopic activity, but it's still a physicalist model. So go beyond the quantum. Time to abandon the quantum. Okay, so I hope this helped. I hope you understand everything I've been saying, and if not, we'll continue with this conversation. But ultimately, the key to transformation, as usual, is getting in touch with the most fundamental aspect of our being, which is pure consciousness. So instead of focusing on any experience, you just shift your awareness to the pure awareness of witnessing the experience. Once again, instead of identifying with the experience, turn your attention to the pure awareness of witnessing the experience. And that is the beginning of freedom. It's the beginning of emotional freedom, but ultimately it's the beginning of total freedom to create your own reality, including your experience of the physical body, of your mental space, and your experiences of the world. So Davi says quantum entanglement. No, let's call it qualia entanglement, not quantum entanglement. Quantum is all about measurements and particles, and as we now know, particles are just human constructs for modes of knowing and experience at a very fundamental level, and yet they're not reality. Reality is awareness modifying itself into qualia, and qualia is the real entanglement. We are qualia entangled beings interacting with each other in the matrix of qualia entanglement and projecting that which we call the physical universe. So thank you for joining me. As usual, it's a great joy for me to share these ideas with you and get your feedback. And I'm eternally grateful to all of you. Thank you.